Good afternoon. As you can see, I am down in my workshop, mostly because the weather outside is not pleasant. In some countries, mainly German speaking and Dutch and that kind of area of Europe, there is a sentiment that comes out in similar sayings that says there's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. I don't know that you're probably going to get a lot of people in New Zealand that are going to agree with that, but we do tend to moan a bit when in fact we have a, for the most part, very temperate climate. It has rained a lot lately though. But that's not what this video is about. You will be aware that, if you've looked at previous videos of mine, that about 6 weeks ago I purchased a new trailer. And this is a tandem trailer. And as such, they travel better behind the vehicle if they travel level. Now the reason that's an issue is that if the drawbar is too low, then the rear axle doesn't carry as much weight until there's quite a bit of weight on it. And it tends to bounce around a bit, particularly when it's empty. And the same thing applies when the drawbar is too high, except in that instance it can put extra weight on the drawbar, on the tow bar, well, and the drawbar, but on the vehicle than it would do if it was riding level. So all of that is a precursor to what happened when I collected the trailer. On the journey home, I realized that my tow bar was too low for the new trailer. And so then I set about remedying that situation. Now, I will show you first the drawbar that the tow hitch that I bought for the Territory not long after I bought the Territory. And the reason for that was, and will become obvious as this video goes on, that the tow hitch that came with it was a massive thing. Somebody had obviously been towing a fairly large boat or caravan, and so I decided I didn't need that, didn't want that. It stuck out a long way from the bumper, which was a shin grabber, and so I went to a much lighter one. Let's have a look and it will become clear what I'm talking about. So this one is the one that I bought after I'd bought the vehicle. And so you can see I've lined this up with the line between the two boards. So this one, the tow hitch, and then this was down here. And so the tow ball then sat on top of here. This boat mooring sized hitch, which is also lined up with the join in the boards, was the one that came with the vehicle, and the tow ball sat on top of here. And so whilst it was a bit higher, you'll see when I show you the one that I had made for the Territory, it needed to be higher still. Now initially, because I thought, because this is a two-piece hitch, it's bolted together here, and there's a big bolt in here that fixes the two together. And so in my ignorance, I thought that if I undid that bolt, I would be able to move this hitch up further, because it's got a rebate here. It looks like it should move up and down. If I had looked more closely, I would have realized maybe not. But I was expecting there to be, like this bolt, a hole through, a threaded bit in here, and maybe another one further up. It transpired that wasn't the case, but in my efforts, so initially I wanted to get the toe ball off because it was a bit trashed, the one that came on it. I had put a new one onto this one, and so I tried to undo that nut. That proved to be a bit problematic in that I didn't have a socket that was big enough to go on it. And so initially I tried using my very old, in fact they were my dad's, pipe spanner. This one here. So I put that on the nut and put a bit of pipe on the end of here and leaned on it. Alas, that happened. So that spanner is no more, which is a bit sad in some ways, but it's had a good life. So then I went to town and bought a socket for both that nut and also, because this one down here is a different size, I bought one for that as well. And I brought those home and I put the socket onto the nut and put my trusty 30-something-year-old power bar on it and a piece of pipe on the end of that, and gently pulled down on that, and it sheared the end clean off it. So that obviously wasn't going to work either. So I went back into town to get a new power bar, which I now have. While I was in town, I thought, I'm just going to take this down to my friend down the road, who is a diesel mechanic and who works on, tractors, machinery, all of those kind of things. I thought he will have at least a 3/4 drive. This is only a 1/2-inch drive. He will have a 3/4 drive socket set, and also he will most likely have a much bigger impact driver than I have and appropriate sockets. So I called him and he said, yeah, come down, we'll sort it out. So I went down. Initially the impact driver wouldn't budget, so we then got out the very large socket set. I can't remember whether it was a 3/4 or a 1-inch. I think it was probably a 3/4, and a reasonably long length of pipe. And then we were able to move that bolt out of that hitch. Part of the issue was that it had corroded inside. The thread had corroded, and that's why it wouldn't come out. The toe ball came off relatively straightforwardly, although it was on very tight. And so, yes, it turned into quite a saga, really. Kind of a half-a-day saga when it should have been just straightforward. And the saddest bit, if that's the right word, probably the most disappointing bit was that as soon as I got the hitch apart, I realised actually I wasn't going to gain anything because it only has one hole in it. I did think about actually putting the hitch in the other way up so that it would sit that way and spin this around as well so that this would then be at the top, but that was going to be too high. And also there are rules about which way you can use these. I don't know whether there are with this one, whether this one can go either way. There's nothing on it that tells me. But I know that with these super cheap ones, you're not allowed to actually flick them up that way. That probably would have been about the right ideal height, but they're not designed, they're not engineered to be used that way. As you can probably see it, if I rub that off, you can see it says on there, this way down. So there you go. I'm going to keep this hitch just because when I sell the vehicle I may actually put that one on, depending on when that happens or what happens at that point or whatever. I'm not in the market for selling the vehicle or anything. I like my territory and it works well for what I'm doing at the moment. But who knows what's around the corner in the years to come. So I'll take you and you can have a look at what I had made. You may ask, why didn't you just make it? Because for insurance purposes, I wanted something that was a recognised manufacturer, and so that if worst case scenario and there was an accident and the trailer, the hitch broke or whatever, then that liability doesn't fall on me. Okay, there we go, a little interlude. See you later, bye. By way of a comparison, this is what the tow bar actually ended up looking like. So the height of the old one, hitch goes in here and it used to come down, and then the one that came with the vehicle was kind of about here somewhere, I think, and then we needed to go quite a bit higher than that still. It certainly has made a big difference to the way the trailer tows, and because now it is sitting level on both sets of axles. Good morning. Maybe you can hear me, maybe you can't. Bit of hedge trimming going on next door, but I am very pleased to say that that big yellow thing has returned, which is a wonderful thing after about a week of not seeing it much. It's I don't know, 11:30 in the morning, and I was interacting with someone this morning. I was saying it starting to feel a little bit like Narnia, but not as cold. But the sun has returned. So today I'm hoping to get a cover over the big hole. But first I need to deal with another issue. I'll show you. You may remember a while ago this cold tap here was dripping, and I put a new washer in it. That would have been last year, and because I knew we were going to refurbish the bathroom, I didn't want to do anything more than that. Alas, the refurbishment of the bathroom has obviously been pushed out a little bit because of cyclone related issues that need to be dealt with first, and the tap is dripping again. So I have bitten the bullet and I have purchased a lever arch tap to go in there. I wanted a swivel one. I'll show you what that means once I've got it in. So I purchased that. They come with these two hoses and one of these fittings. This fitting comes with a pressure reducing thing in it, so that if you're using it on uneven pressure, i.e. cold water pressure higher than hot water pressure, you leave that in. But ours is a mains pressure system, so they're pretty much the same. So you just push the little reducer out. Obviously this just came out of my stores, and I bought these two as well to go onto those, and then they go down here onto the fittings in the wall. So there'll be a wingback in behind there, and then a nipple in that these current pipes are connected to. I have turned the water off and I've put all these towels here because I don't want the water going down into the things underneath here. So I'll crack on with that bit, and We'll see how much water comes out. I will turn the bath on first to release any pressure that's in the system, and then I will turn these taps on just to make sure that as much water as possible is not in the lines when I crack those nuts. Let's see how we go. This tap, it's proving a little difficult to undo the nut at the bottom that holds the tap in place. So I've put a couple of lumps of wood in behind it, so eventually that will hit there and then it won't be able to turn anymore. We shall continue. There's a reasonable amount of lime build up around here from the last 30 years, and so I want to get that off if I can, because then there's a rubber O-ring on the bottom of here that sits down on that, and it will just help seal it better. Now what happens is these fellas go in the bottom of here, and you want them reasonably tight in there, but I will put them in once I have this in place, I think. Let's just see how far in this goes. Yeah, so they don't go in a particularly long way. So I need that much, plus the thickness of that, plus the thickness of these. So probably if I come down to about there somewhere, will be about right. Because then it'll just mean there's less to do once it's in there. So with these, you've got to put them through one at a time, otherwise they won't fit. Oh, no, let's put the skinny one in first. There we go. So the hot tap is, the hot hose supply is skinnier than the gold one. Right. Back underneath again. All of these fittings have rubber seals on them, so I don't need thread seal tape or anything for any of those. They can all just go together, which is great. Plan B. Problem is that I can't see the other hole to thread it into, so it's the old story of trying to do it, not really the lazy way, but just what I thought would be easier, but no. Put these in first. It would have been easier still if I'd put these in while the thing was still out. I made sure that I had the right ring and open ender to do this, just because it's so much easier with a smaller spanner. It doesn't help when you have progressive lenses, because I'm looking through the top of the lens, which is meant for distance, which means that I'm kind of doing this by feel as much as by sight. Sight's only giving me this is roughly where it goes. I have aligned it up the top so that it's pointing in the right direction, so to speak. So with these fittings, because they've got the rubber seals in them, I'm just going to nip them up and that's all. And if they leak a bit, I'll give them a bit more, but other than that I won't. I'll take the label off that. I realise these are a bit longer than they need to be, but you don't have a lot of choices because this comes with it, and I could have just put an elbow on here, but having these rubber seal ones is a bit nicer. Oh goodness, that's tight. I've got a horrible feeling that the nipple is coming out of the wall. No, maybe not. Let's get you go over there, out of the way. Get a bit more towel up there to soak up more water. Good one. Let's just have a look here. Hopefully that is going to seal. That nipple's been cut with a hacksaw, which might be a problem. We'll see. I didn't. That was close. Oh, I've just realised this is the hot outlet, not the cold, and I'm connecting the cold to it. Oh no, no, it is the hot one. I did have it right. Ah dear. Again, the issue is that with my progressives, I can't really see very well down here. I was pretty sure I had it right, but then I suddenly doubted myself. Alright, I should have got two short ones by the look of this, but what we have is what we have, and so we'll run with that. That looks pretty good. You can probably see that there's quite a wind in this, so I need to back this off and redo it to take that wind out of the hose. They're flexible, that doesn't mean that they cope well with being wound up like that. There we go, that looks better. Alright. Go and turn some water on, see what happens. Oh. I don't think I did that up, did I? Bother. One of the hazards of trying to film stuff as you go is that you forget stuff. And that's clearly what happened there. I loosened that, I only put that on finger tight so that I could sort out the issue at this end, and then forgot to go back and tighten it. So it's not quite water everywhere, but okay, done. When you remove 2 taps and put one in to replace it, pure logic tells you you're going to end up with a hole. And so you can buy these little things that go in there to cover that hole. It's called a chrome basin stopper. I always have trouble finding them in the store. I know roughly where they are, but I seem to scan the wall forever to find them, but eventually I do. I debated, do I want a chrome one or a white one? In the end I went for the chrome one because it's a chrome tap, even though the waste is white. So that's where I landed. I'll put this in and we'll be all done. I have cleaned up around the hole. We'll call it done once that's in.